Some exchange betting companies run short-lived promotions, like months-long offers of low commission. At BetDAG, we wanted to change the way we did things, so we set our commission at 2% permanently. That's 2% on football, horse racing, golf, almost any sport. 2%. That's just one way that BetDAG is changing for the better. For the better, like you. BetDAG, the 2% commission exchange.
Over 18s only, please gamble responsibly.
My lover's got no money, he's got his strong beliefs. My lover's got no power, he's got his strong beliefs. My lover's got no fame, he's got his strong beliefs. My lover's got no money, he's got his strong beliefs. More and more, people just want more and more freedom and love. What he's looking for, more and more, people just want more and more freedom and love. What he's looking for, perfect desire. Common sense is verified, perfect desire. Common sense is verified, perfect desire. Common sense is verified, perfect desire. Na 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 na
Hello and welcome to the Roker Rapport Podcast, where we are joined with Stewart Donald, who is here to tell us all about deadline day and transfers and budgets and everything else. So how are you, Stewart?
Yeah, almost over it. Yeah, I feel like I'm back in the land of the living.
Was it stressful?
Very stressful.
Most stressed you've ever been in business?
Yes. Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Last few hours were. If we have a Netflix second series, then they were with me, and I think that will be good TV. Unfortunately.
And just to clarify, you were not in Sunderland; you were in Oxford.
No, I was in with Neil Fox and Richard Hill. Jack was obviously up here, and I was. I thought being out of the way, I wouldn't interfere too much or get too involved, and I managed to keep quiet till about 5 o'clock in the evening, and then I swung into action.
And were you keeping track of Twitter and seeing what fans were saying, or were you trying to keep yourself away from everything?
No, I was away from everything. I've seen Twitter for the few days before, and you could see as it gets closer, how everyone's emotion was. I think I was a focal point for a few comments, which is fair enough. But I'd seen a couple of days before, so I had an idea of what the day was like, and I'd said about a week before, I'll talk about it afterwards. You haven't got time to talk about it through the process, even if you want to. So it was all about just getting it done. So I didn't look at Twitter until after the window had shut, and I just sat down and I went home and I was waiting for the confirmation. So I then went on Twitter and had a look at what people were saying, and I thought, well, it will keep me awake for an hour, so I'll do a few likes and whatever. But it was. I think to be fair, just before the window, everyone's panicking, and I'm the devil for not having delivered. And then after the Will Grigg was announced, everybody said, well done. But the reality of it is, it's somewhere in between. We were working hard all the way through the window, and you don't want to leave it to the last minute. But you haven't got control over other football clubs. Yeah, you can only do what you can do, and I think everybody realised if they held out to the last minute, that would be when we were at our most desperate.
Okay, we're going to start with the transfers out to begin with. We have got a big section on Will Grigg, so hold back on your Will Grigg comments until we're there. But we'll start with Josh Maja. Last time you were on, that was the main point of this podcast. But can you tell us the full story of what happened sort of after that? He obviously must have had a meeting with his family, and I presume...
I had a meeting with Jack and Josh, and I just very simply said to Josh, the indication was that you were happy here and that it was just about timing, but the reality of it is now that seems to have changed. And I just said, look, just be honest with us. If you want to go and play football in the Premier League or you want to stay with this and that, I said, don't tell us one thing and then do something else, because we've got to plan for the future of our football club, and we just need to know what's in your head. And he then agreed that he'd go away and talk to his agent and his family, and we'd extend it a couple of days. And then, very simply then, I was then having conversations with his agent about, he was saying, well, I'm going to talk to this club or that club, and that without saying he's not signing, that then said to me straight away, well, he's not signing. And, Jack then talked to him and Josh said, no, I've decided to move on. And for that moment on, it was about whether we could get the right deal and whether or not we could keep Josh till the end of the season to stay. And of course, there's no secret. I think we checked into it. If he moves abroad, which we thought was always going to be the plan, the club would get about 300,000. So we were always going to be financially better off if we could get the right deal. But it had to be the right deal. And the agent came to us with some figures. And I said, well, I'm not even going to have a conversation because, Josh doesn't earn a lot of money at the moment. And if I need to sign a replacement, I'm going to spend all that money and more on a replacement. So I said I might as well keep, Josh and keep him to the end of the season. But, I had a conversation with Jack there because we need to keep Josh if he's mentally right to stay. And on that basis, if we didn't think he was mentally right to stay, then, we'd have to have a look. And Josh is a lovely lad and he's a good lad and you can't blame him in lots of ways for wanting to move. But we have to be sure that if we're going to keep him, that he is going to deliver as he has for the season moving forward, because there's loads of dynamic there. Once he said he's not signing, what do the existing players, how do they interact with him, how does it affect the atmosphere? Is Josh, although he'll say he'll give 100%, will he? Because he's obviously mentally will have signed a pre-contract somewhere. So on balance, after a conversation with Jack, I think it was pretty clear that we preferred to get a replacement if we could, and see if we could get the best deal we could. And then it got a little bit more frustrating because we had better deals in this country. But, I think Josh's mind or his agent's mind were made up that he was going to move abroad. And from that point, there wasn't really an awful lot of negotiating that could be done because it was, well, we can move him in the summer for not very much, or you take the deal that's on the table. I still haggled as hard as I possibly physically could on that and got it up, quite a lot, I think, because at the end of the season, there's no sell on, there's no extras, there's no anything. And if Josh does all right, we'll ultimately get a fair value for him. At the moment, we've only got £1.5 million for him. That is not much for a striker. And with the potential he's got, but Josh has gone, so we now move forward and good luck to him and everything else, but we've got to be certain, and I've been having conversations with this and I touched on it last time I was in, we can't have this again. It's absolutely ridiculous that we have young lads, because Linden to a degree was in the same boat. They've really started playing this season and doing well, so the club's paid for these players for X amount of time, and we've organised a contract that when they start to get in the first team, everything switches to their favour. So we won't have that in the future, but it might mean that we have a few tough conversations with a few players now because we're changing the way we're doing our contracts.
Was the Josh Maja deal in your mind a good deal, or do you think we didn't get what we should have got? No,
it's not a good deal. It's cost us by not having it organised correctly, and you could argue, that was. I should have started that in August when I've started at end of September. But to be fair, when I came to the club, Josh Maja wasn't particularly, well known in that sense. Jack's put him in the team, and every week we're trying to negotiate the contract. He's scoring a goal, so of course it's ratcheted up really quickly, and it's just like the perfect storm. But the reality of it is, come October when we're ready, it's too late. But it shouldn't have got that way. Josh Maja signed, I think, a 3-year deal. Well, you can put 3-year extensions on that in the club's favour. And what we should have done is turn around and said, for the first 2 years, he's probably not going to play, or maybe the first 18 months. When he starts playing, if he plays, the boy was on less than £1,000 a week. If he starts playing, then the contract should say you start earning more money, but we get extra years. And we've got this scenario now with Benji, who's in the same boat as Josh Maja, will be in the summer. 1 year left on his deal. Might get in the first team next season, everything swings to him. So I've said, basically from a football club perspective, I've told the football people, get his contract organised so that if he gets in the first team, it extends and he earns more money. But we need the options to extend these players' contracts, and we should negotiate those at the start before we know. Doing it after the event, that the price just goes through the roof. So, you've got to do that at the start. And, then of course the football people go, well, the agent might not like that, this, that, and that. And I said, it's simple. If they won't commit to the future here and have an extension, then we won't play them. And that, might affect us. But, use Benji as an example. I'm not saying we're not there with him on that, or let's say it's Elliot Edmonton or any of the other young lads you're going to ask me about. If we want to extend their contract and they're not currently playing in our first team, and they won't give us the facility that says, if you play football for us in the first team, we extend your contract, but you earn more money. If they won't commit to that with us when they're not even in the first team, then they won't play football for us. We'll have to get different players, because these young lads should be committed to our football club. And if they deliver, we need to be protected. We cannot be in a position whereby all our young players play for us in the last year of their contract and then can just demand top dollar and swallow somewhere else. We're taking a gamble on them. And they're not even, are they taking a gamble on us? We're Sunderland Football Club. If you're a 17, 18, 19-year-old lad and we offer you a 2-year deal and say, if you get in our first team, we'll extend it by 2 years and you earn more money. If they don't want to do that, then we won't have them here. Who wants that sort of player? So that's where we're going.
Do you feel, in hindsight, you could have handled the Josh Maja situation better? And I say we, I mean the club. Could they have handled it better?
Yes, we could have talked to him in August. But, when you come into the club and you've got Jack Rodwell to sort and Didier and Dong and, people that are earning what they're earning, and you've got to do that, understand the club, sort the culture, and you check what the football club has done before and you get the footballing view, because bear in mind, we haven't even seen an awful lot of these players playing till they come back. Then once Josh started playing in August, I could have sat down in August. The reality of it is I'm not sure, with all the other stuff I had in August, it wasn't unrealistic to start it in September. And I might have been 4 weeks slow on it. I don't think it would have made a difference, because I think once he started doing what he was doing, it was always beneficial potentially for him to get a move abroad. So I'm not sure. You can always look at it and say you could have done it a little bit differently. I could have moved up on the offer quicker, I suppose. I'll look at it. It's cost us, and that was a mistake. Do I think that we should have been in that position? Not really. I mean, when you look at the academy and the wages, it's so skewed. You got players like Josh earning less than others who, when you talk to the academy team, you go, well, he's earning this, he's earning that, he's earning the other. And you listen to the logic behind why someone was offered what they were offered. There's no set structure and pattern. So I haven't looked at the academy from the moment I walked in. I've looked at it now. Josh is probably, a big part of me saying we can't have this in the future. So we've got there. I might have got there a little bit late. But this is a long-term project, and I think we'll get the right structure in our academy to keep ourselves protected. It's gutting, really.
I'm going to talk about another academy product here. So Andy Nelson left. Yep. What was the thinking behind him leaving? Was that a decision that the club made, or was that because...
No, all the decisions on the players are down to Jack Ross, Tony Coton, and, when it comes to the academy, Kevin, Paul Reed, the people that Jack's put around him. They'll make all the footballing decisions on what players we offer contracts, whether we let people go, the players we want to sign. Our job as a board is to try and get the best financial result on all the players in and out and the whole of the club, so that if we need to push the boat out, we've given ourselves the best chance. And the footballing view of letting Nelson go was that it was a conversation between Paul Reed, I would imagine, and Jack Ross, and I think that's exactly what it was. And the view was there was interest in him. Where do we think he would get to? Where where do we think it would fit with our plans? And the view was that it would be better on if he moved if we got the right deal. And we think we got the right deal. I know he was doing well at Darlington, and I can see that, and he might be one for the future. And will he kick on enough to get into our first team when we're trying to make sure we're going in the Championship, etc.? I don't know if he would have been there in 2 or 3 years' time. But when the interest comes in, they come to the board in that scenario. It wasn't the board going out saying, you've got to move, I don't know, whether it is Benji, Nelson, Josh Maja, etc. on that isn't what the board do. They come to us saying there's an interest. We want to do this, and we go, okay, yes or no. And that's so, if you want to know why he's moved on from a footballing perspective, then Jack or Paul Reed's your man, really. But from the point they said, yes, we think it's a good move, we then think we've got, a sell on and some potential funds depending on, what happens and games played and where Dundee end up in the league or whatever. And we think we've done a decent deal with the club there.
Brian Oviedo was close to joining West Brom.
Yes.
That deal was expected to go through, then didn't.
Yes.
What happened with him?
We received an inquiry. I didn't think it was quite enough, if I'm honest. But again, we checked with the footballing people, and they said no, they're happy with that. And we said, okay, well, we'll let Brian talk to West Brom. They talked to each other, and West Brom said yes, they'd like to do it. And we said, okay, this was, with plenty of time to get the deal done. And then lunchtime on transfer deadline day, our focus is completely and utterly on the ins. Bit of good news on the outs, because it would help with the cash flow. If the footballing decision is it's the right thing, you then go to the finance and go, okay, that's all right. And we left it to Brian and West Brom, and we're sat there waiting for the paperwork, and the paperwork never arrived. So why that didn't happen is down to West Brom and Brian, not Sunderland. We agreed for him to go. They didn't complete the deal.
So does that mean there was rumours saying that it was an error on the Sunderland end? So is that not true?
That's not true at all. No. And we spoke to the agent, and I think there was a conversation where all I know third hand is West Brom, I think, said they couldn't get hold of the agent. The agent said, well, I couldn't get hold of West Brom or whatever. And someone said, well, Sunderland weren't doing the paperwork. Well, we were pretty efficient on our paperwork, and we were ready to go.
And is it disappointing not to have moved him on because of the wages?
I
didn't know if that affected our deadline day in the sense that you were waiting to get that off the wage book so you could.
No, no. It's from a financial perspective, it would have been beneficial, but it's not going to change the fortune of the football club, because the contribution to the wage we would have had to make meant that it was more about putting Brian, giving him definite game time, putting him in the shop window, with maybe taking a view on next year, because he is expensive for us. He's been an excellent pro, and he is an excellent pro, and he comes in and he does what some of the others didn't, and gives us 100% commitment. And again, I don't do the footballing side, but if you ask me personally, I would have, for what we were getting, I would have probably potentially just left him in anyway, just in case. But that's a twitchy owner, because I was like on transfer deadline day, Jack was very relaxed. He was happy with the business that he knew was going on. And I was like the complete opposite, because I'm just like, I think every football fan, what if we get an injury? What if we get a suspension? I'd prefer to have 8 strikers than 1. So that if somebody gets injured or someone goes off form, you can just keep chucking them in. But that's from a fan's perspective who plays Football Manager, isn't it? Jack's got to manage the squad, and we got a big squad. He doesn't want, I shouldn't think, 3 players on the sidelines that he's got to manage that have come here expecting to play football. So I was like a kiddie in the sweetie shop, and Jack, quite rightly, is telling me to, shut up, get out of the way. I've got a Football Manager and a recruitment team, leave them to it. And quite right too.
Is that an admittance that you play Football Manager?
I don't know. No, I do Sunderland to play Football Manager. I just don't do the football managing bit. No, No. I used to as a when I was younger, but I've managed to sort of jump up to the real thing. But it's club management, not the players.
Yeah.
So I've got the worst of both worlds there.
Jerome Sinclair, he obviously had his loan terminated. What was the reasons behind that?
Again, it'd be footballing. Jack and Jerome, I think, will have had a chat, and he wasn't from a fan's perspective or an owner's. When you look at it, he wasn't getting as much game time as probably he wanted or we would want from him if he's in the squad. And I think they probably just had a conversation that said, you're not guaranteed any more game time. And Jerome, I think, probably thinks, well, I need to play football, so he's gone somewhere else, and good luck to him. But I could do the finances, but the footballing decisions are Jack's.
Yeah, he's went to Oxford, actually, I think.
Yes, he has, yeah. I think he'll be a good signing for Oxford.
Okay, we'll do the transfers in now, the more exciting aspect. Obviously, Max Power was done pretty much 1st of January.
Yeah.
So the first real signing was Jimmy Dunn. How did that come about, and is there any scope to sign him on a permanent deal?
I don't think there's any scope to sign him on a permanent deal because I think he's highly thought of at Burnley. At the start of the window, I asked Jack what he thought he would like, and on the basis of keeping Josh, as we thought we were going to, he just thought we needed a centre back, and they'd had their targets. They knew all about Jimmy, and they just said, we think he'll be available, and I said, well, if that is who you want, go and get him then, if it makes sense, and that's exactly what they did. So, Max was always going to happen. Jimmy Dunn, I think, was very straightforward. Then through the window, we lose Josh and Jerome, and I think from a simple perspective again there, I said, well, we've got Charlie and possibly Duncan, both of whom have coming back from injuries, neither of whom have scored a lot of goals at this stage because you think they're feeling their way back in. They could have a breakdown on an injury. Hopefully they won't. They got to find a bit of form. And I just said to Jack, should we replace the two? And Jack said, well, yeah, if we can. But, one might be enough. And Jack was very comfortable, I think, with one. And again, being a twitchy, and I said, well, if I can get two for you, I'll get two because, I'm worried about the injury aspect, the suspensions and everything else. Would you like two? And Jack said, if you can get two, you can get two, but don't worry, one's enough. So, I've been a bit more cautious. It's Jack is very, 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 very good from an owner's perspective financially. He doesn't push as much as he gets the finances, and he doesn't push beyond what is sensible. He won't pay over the odds. I talked to him about all the players that I'm trying to negotiate and buy or do the wages on. And he's the first one to go, he's not worth that. I'm not paying that. There's another one. We'll get another one. Let's move on. Just tell the lad we'll move on and we'll get someone else. And he's very comfortable that he can do an awful lot of his management from the training ground. That there was no pressure from Jack. All the pressure I sort of put on myself, really, to try and do the best I could for him.
Grant Ledbetter, had lots of questions about him, but
yep.
Who initiated the deal on that one? Was that something? I mean, it was rumoured in the summer. I remember we talked about Grant Ledbetter back in August. How did that deal come about?
Well, I think we'd heard that he'd got options, and Grant Ledbetter has become my favourite player straight away because he's not, he's come here with the absolute opposite of finances involved, which from an owner's perspective you absolutely love, because he's coming for absolutely 100% the right reason, and you always hope people will. And I'm sure we'll get onto a couple of conversations we had about strikers in the window, which meant they were just straight no's. But Grant, we knew, was potentially looking to move, and we knew that there was interest. And I don't know who knew or whether he contacted us or we contacted him, but we knew that there was a desire from him, no matter what, to come back to Sunderland. And I think once we were aware of that, there were a lot of conversations, and we think he'll add, another dimension for us. We think he'll be great in the changing rooms. He's come here to sort of achieve something, and he's although he's slightly older than Jack's normal signings. He's got a good engine and a good few years in his legs, we hope. So, I think it's one of those things where it was just always sort of known that he might be available, and we just went for him.
Did we have to pay a fee for him?
No.
And were Borough good to work with on that deal?
Perfect. Yeah.
I suppose you built that link up after the Paddy McNair deal.
They were great. They were great on that. They're a very professional football club.
Do you know Steve Gibson?
No. But they take a very sensible. There's, some football clubs are just difficult to deal with, and just are, when you're talking to players or talking about players with them, it's just. It's like going into a market where someone's got £1,000 sign or something, they go 10,000. You just think, I know you'll sell it for less than that, but you're just being stupid. And then other clubs are very realistic, and you can have a sensible conversation with them where they talk up why they want a bigger value or a lower one, or this deal won't happen for this, or this deal won't happen for that. And then you can open up about where you are financially, knowing that you're both telling the truth. And I think Middlesbrough are very straight, and they've been great to deal with on those transactions.
How important is it to have a Sunderland person like Grant Ledbetter sign for the club, and have somebody like him, who the fans can identify with? I mean, we saw him come through the ranks, and we all remember his brilliant goal against Arsenal. How important do you think that is?
I think you don't know, in honesty, do you? But your gut instinct tells you that having people that get the area, that love the club, that'll run through the extra. I mean, football now is fine margins. So if you've got two players of the same standard, but somebody just absolutely wants to die for the club, then you expect that when it just comes to it, it will just give you that edge. So I think, you can develop that with players that don't have any connection to the area. But undoubtedly, there is a passion in him to see the football club successful. And I think if you can get that just comes naturally, then you would hope that will give you an advantage. So I think we might just have a natural advantage in his mentality.
Lewis Morgan, obviously a player that Jack knew quite well. How did that deal come about? And is there a potential to make that one a permanent deal? Again,
there was a conversation, I think, in the summer that he was on our list, but for whatever reason, it didn't materialise. I don't think there's a view that it can become permanent. None of the loans we've done, I think, are on that basis. They're with a view to strengthen us for the running, and you never know what happens. Lots changes, but Jack knows him. He's kept tabs on him, and I think the view was that we might need at times in the game. We haven't had much to throw on from the bench. Also, forms can come in and out, and you can pick up injuries and everything else. And having the one extra winger, I think was sensible. So, Jack obviously knows Celtic and Lewis, etc., and he was instrumental in obviously bringing him in.
Was he close to signing in the summer? He was a player that was linked.
No, well, he wasn't close, but he'd been mentioned, but he wasn't close.
No. Keziah Sterling, that transfer seemed to come out of nowhere. But is it true that Tony Davidson pulled in a favour?
No.
Oh, right.
That deal is Tony Coton. Tony has got, I think, a really good relationship with Tottenham. There were 6 or 7 other clubs that wanted him, and Tony kept that one on the back burner, kept it to himself. Jack really likes him, and he's very highly thought of. But luckily, I think Tony's relationship with Tottenham, Tony Coton that is, has delivered that player for us in this deal.
So don't give Tony Davidson any credit.
Absolutely not.
I don't know where I read that. I think it was.
No. Well, give him credit for something, but definitely not that. Yeah.
What do you think Keziah can bring to Sunderland? He's a player that Sunderland fans are not aware of. Really.
I asked Jack that because he's not a player I'm aware of. But they were very excited about getting him, and I said, well, what is he then? And he got described as in the summer, no one had heard of Josh, and he's come into the team, and he said, on balance, I'm not sure which player you'd have taken in the summer. He's slightly smaller than Josh, but he's similar. So I think that's how he sees him.
And obviously, we're just about to come on to Will Grigg now. But before we get there, were there any other players that we were close to in the window that didn't quite come off? I mean, you don't have to necessarily name names, but
no one we were close to. No.
And how many players did we actually try to sign? Because on deadline day there was a list. Tommy Eaves was thrown out, John Marquez. Was
we made an offer on Tom Eaves apparently. But if we did, that was somebody who stole Sunderland headed paper to make the offer, because we didn't do that. I mean, I when you said, did I look at Twitter? No, I didn't. But a few days before, I saw some of the names, and we were offering for this and offering for that. We offered for some of those, but not all of them. I think we had, probably when we thought Will was unlikely, he was always Jack's number one target. Then, we inquired about a lot of strikers, but some of the prices we got back were just ridiculous. And I think every time we inquired and asked a price, I think everyone said we put a bid in. And I think in some regards, I've seen that now in January. I think if players are going to sell their strikers to us at critical times, and these are our rivals or people that are trying to stave off relegation, then to appease their fans, they want to obviously make sure that the figure is as high as possible, and I get that. So saying that you're knocking back bids left, right, and centre, and saying that the price is this or that or the other. Some of those prices were quoted prices to us. We didn't bid on them. One of the things I was quite pleased about is I know you had Keith on here saying we probably had £1 million, £1.5 million to spend, and the fact that we spent more than that on a player says, I think we've done well. Although we spent it, we've done well to not create the impression, that's wrong, but people don't see Sunderland with loads of money, but we've done well in our transfer dealings and the running of the club, I think, since we've come in, and that has created, along with the fans turning up in numbers, which has made a difference. We created a little bit more money so that when it became critical for us, we could go that bit further, and nobody realised that.
Some exchange betting companies run short-lived promotions, like month-long offers of low commission. At BetDAG, we wanted to change the way we did things, so we set our commission at 2% permanently. That's 2% on football, horse racing, golf, almost any sport. 2%. That's just one way that BetDAG is changing for the better. For the better, like you. BetDAG, the 2% commission exchange.
Over 18s only, please gamble responsibly. Do you think this Will Grigg deal, may as well jump onto him now, do you think that'll show fans, because a lot of fans are like, do the owners have money? I mean, they've said they've got money. Do you think they're still saying, we've paid 3 rising to 4 million? Do you think that says, yes, we have money, yes, we'll back the manager when we need to back them, but we're not just going to throw silly amounts of money at players?
If you ask Jack whether he's backed by us, he's backed, I would hope he would say 100%. We will do whatever we can to sign players if the finances make sense. Now, I was straight about what we're trying to do with the seats, well, we're trying to involve the fans, which players we're trying to get out, and what players we signed. And I said it how it was, or what I thought. And sometimes what I think doesn't always happen or whatever, but I made a judgment call as to where I thought we would be. And that's where we are. Now, I also said, I'm not a billionaire, and I'm not going to be going and spending 20, 30 million pounds on a striker in the Championship. I won't. We're not in that position. I am looking at loads of different ways for us to make sure we're as financially strong as possible if we can get to the Championship, from loads of different things that I'll quite happily sit and talk about for half an hour. Some people go, that's a stupid idea, or that I didn't thought that's a good idea. Things that can help us compete with teams that will come down from the Premier League who are going to start £50 million ahead, minus the difference in our fan base, which is probably worth to us £3 or £4 million. So, we have got money to spend in the right area, but as I said at the start, we will not be spending 10, 15, 20 million pounds on a player unless I can deliver something different to where I'm currently sat. And I know people have said, I've got £8 million, I'm worth £9 million. Well, if they had a brain in that sense, without being rude and disrespectful, because it's quite a disrespectful thing to say to me, I had to prove £50 million in liquid assets to buy this football club. That's me. Not Juan, not Charlie, not anyone else. And that's not a hotel in Sardinia or some, that is liquid. If Sunderland needed £50 million cash for whatever reason, I could go to and all I showed them was shares in a public listed company and my current bank account, not my savings account, my current account, and I passed. So, what I'm worth is nobody's business, because it doesn't matter if I'm worth 2 billion or 50 million. What matters is, what am I going to put into Sunderland? And from that perspective, everything else is irrelevant. And I've told people what I will do, and I'll do what I said. I would like to try and get the football club so it's self-sustainable and can push itself on. In this January transfer window, I was talking to a manager who's doing very well, and he's generated over £10 million in transfer fees and was hoping to have £3 or £4, £5 million to spend, and he hasn't got any of it. Now, I can tell fans here, if we sell a player, then we won't be taking the money out. We'll reinvest it. Now, it might have to get reinvested in, like Bob Murray's days, he was doing the stadium, and it was stadium versus place. If there's something that comes up that we've got to spend that's non-football related, we'd use that money if we generate it. Or we'll put it in wages, or we'll sign players. What we don't need, none of us need to make money out of Sunderland. We're all successful in our own rights, in varying degrees. And to be fair, Juan being the most successful, but we've all got nice lifestyles. We all earn decent money outside of Sunderland, so we don't need to take money out of the football club. If going along the way we get people that want to invest and we do all right in it, then fair enough. If we've delivered, then I don't think that's unreasonable. And as long as it's done fairly and sensibly for Sunderland Football Club and doesn't jeopardise the future in any way, that's not unreasonable. But it's also not reasonable of us to sell a footballer and take money out. Everything that's generated stays in. But at the moment, spending a couple of £1 million on a striker or a midfielder or whatever it is, we can do that. But also, why should we spend loads of money in League One? We should be big enough to get out of League One without having to be the biggest spenders. All right, we are the biggest spenders, but I'm not necessarily sure we should have to be. And when it gets in the Championship, it's a game changer. But make no mistake, we have got to compete with clubs that come out with a £50 million payment. And we've blown ours. We've blown it. I have managed to save next year's for the work that's done. That looked like it was going to go. But all of next year's parachute money is going to be surplus for us to either run the football club or get us on an even keel or whatever it is. And that is a big achievement from what we inherited, because half of it was already gone from this season when we'd come in. It had all been, promised away or whatever, and loads of transfers that we know we had to pay for, etc., and so on and so on, and a £35 million loss. We had all of that, but we are going to have to compete if we get up. If I'm in charge and we get up, we have got to compete with teams that naturally get the money that we've blown. And I'm thinking about that all the time. What can we do? How can we raise finance? How can we structure it? And I'm trying to do it in a way where I'm still involved, because I want to be involved. And I want to make the decisions. But if I can't, as I've said before, it will be an emotionally tough decision, but I'd have to pass it on. But at this stage, we can give Jack whatever he needs to get out of this league. So let's concentrate on that, and then we'll worry about where we go afterwards. But just so the fans know, I've been straight from the start. I haven't come in here saying I'm going to spend £100 million. I can't spend £100 million, and I haven't said that I will. And if the desire becomes that you want an owner that does that, and I get the vibe from you all that you don't want me, then I'll get rid of it and I'll pass it on. So you'll only have to tell me that I've got no desire to have sit-in protests. The Twitter I received, not publicly but personally, was shocking. Some of the stuff people were saying to me, and it wasn't true and it wasn't deserved, but it comes with the territory, and that's fair enough. And everyone but about 2 people has emailed me since and apologised, but they've apologised because I signed a player. And I've been trying to sign a player for, if I hadn't done it, it wasn't because I wasn't trying. And it wasn't because I was, trying to take the £3 million out of the football club that I've put in to do it. It's because I was trying to do the right thing. And I get why I got those comments, and that's fine. It's no issue. But rest assured, if I get that on this, then as soon as you tell me I'm not wanted, I'll get the message, because I'm sure you'll all let me know.
Do you think though? I mean, Twitter's an interesting one, because I know we sometimes get criticised on Twitter, or somebody will criticise my interviewing technique, and you do take it personally, and it's only a small percentage. I mean, do you sometimes maybe blow it out of proportion in your head? Because I know I do.
I don't. I don't blow it out of proportion. I mean, people have apologised to me. I said, don't worry. I said, you don't know what's going on. You've had the years that you've had. Everyone's telling you that I'm here to do this and that and feather my own nest and everything else. And don't get me wrong. I don't want Sunderland. I would like to leave when I leave Sunderland with it having, cost me nothing. And if I've got some upside from that and I've done a good job, then that would be a perfect scenario for me. But I did Sunderland because I could afford to do it. And it was the only time I ever thought I'd be able to get a football club that is like Sunderland. And I didn't even realise what Sunderland was, if I'm honest. I've got an even better deal from the perspective of what it's actually like. But I did it because I could, and because I wanted the challenge, and I put quite a lot on the line to do that. But this is about making the football club successful. And if people want to tweet me, and they're Newcastle fans posing as Sunderland fans, or they're Sunderland fans that are, genuinely think I'm here for the wrong reasons, fine, I accept that. And you'll also get those fans, which was more of the deadline, who were just desperate for the football club to do well, and had probably sat there for 2 weeks listening to what I said and thinking, he ain't delivering. I knew it was going to be like this. I knew it was going to be like this. And they whipped themselves up into a frenzy, and then they smashed me. And that's fair enough. I haven't got a problem with that. I don't over complicate that. I take it for what it is. Getting personal messages about your family and your life and what people will do to you if you don't sign players. Really? And that. Yeah. That's OTT. That's a bit much.
Is that the sort of thing you can actually report? I mean,
everyone's apologised and said I was having a drink and I was getting wound up and whatever. It's that's fine, but this is on something where I'm doing my very best to deliver, and we are whatever we are, 5th in the league with 3 games in hand, with a manager that absolutely loves the club, with a team that are giving 100%, and a staff that are doing the same. And based on maybe not signing one striker, that's the feeling, because that's how high the passions run. So I can see that if I can't deliver, then I've got no desire to stay here and try and hold on to a football club and I don't know, sell it for 30 million if it's worth 10, or sell it for 80 million because it's worth 15, or try and hang on because somebody's going to buy a player for 5 million I can take out. I've got no desire for that. I don't need it. My lifestyle's fine, thanks very much. So I'm happy with that. What I don't want in my life is to be given absolutely everything and 100%. And then, if you look at Newcastle down the road, you got to sit in protest with Mike Ashley and this. I don't know whether or not he's doing a good job for them, or this, that and the other. He's doing what he's doing. But at whatever given point, they don't like it and they don't want him there. If I suffered that, not form of abuse or whatever it is, but if that was how the Sunderland fans felt about me, I'd wake up in the morning and think, I don't need this. What am I doing this for? I'm doing it for them and me. It's a personal challenge for me, and it's to see the reaction from them and deliver them something. Those are the two things. So I've got some personal pride and a sense of achievement for me and for everybody else. And if those people don't want me to do it, I won't be putting money into a football club to do it. I'll be saying, right, next person. And the January window opened my eye up a little bit to
what it can get like.
To what it can get like. But I've said it from the start, and I said to the guys around me, I said we cannot outstay our welcome. But while we're here, we're giving 100%.
I don't think though the reality is 90% of Sunderland fans are well behind what you, Charlie, and Juan are doing. I would tend to ignore Twitter and the forums that might.
Yeah, I don't. It will come out in the Netflix scenario. Neil, who works for me, said to me at the start, he said, "Don't read the forums. Don't read." I said, "I'm not going to read the forums because the Sunderland forum, I think, just goes boom all the time." And I said, I wouldn't even be able to keep up anyway, and I'd never get off it. And on transfer deadline day, he was sat with the Netflix guy. He's just trying to wind me up. He said, there you are. There's a thread on there, the Don's first mistake or whatever. And I said, my first mistake? I said, I'll make mistakes every day with regards to Sunderland. I do my best, but I get it wrong. We'll get it wrong. But I think the only thing is if people knew how little sleep I had, how much it affected me, and I hope we get this Netflix second series because people will see, I think, how much effort has gone in to try and get this right, for all the right reasons. And I think when you're doing that, if you don't get nice messages, it's not great, but it doesn't affect me because the personal ones that you get occasionally are or whatever. But I also had some great ones from fans that are saying, we'll stick with you, we get it, don't worry, ignore the moaners or whatever it is. And people aren't generally moaning. If you discard the Newcastle fans dressed up as Sunderland fans in that sense, they're just worried for their own football club, sceptical about football club owners, because to be fair, as a group of people, we haven't looked after football clubs as well as they should be looked after. And lots of football club owners don't actually get that the football club is the fans. So they feel abused. And I think when most football clubs have had that at some stage, you just become wary. So that doesn't bother me. I'm just saying at the point at which I can't take the football club on, I think the Sunderland fans may become restless, and that's fair enough. But I'll see it before them. And the key on this project is to try and stay here for 20 years and deliver everything. And you go to bed at night and you dream those dreams where you not only do you go up, you compete in Europe and everything. That's what I want. But I'm not stupid enough to realise that at some point that might become too financially difficult for me. Albeit I hope I can do it in a slightly different way. But the key will be that I realise that 6 months before all of you lot, in that sense, and I leave on the right basis with fans saying, well, he did the right thing, and that'll be emotional. I've said that because the football club's got me.
Right, we'll jump on to Will Grigg now. We've teetered onto the Will Grigg story, but can you give us a timeline of the first bid to the final bid, how the whole deal came about?
Well,
is it fair to say, I've seen people say that you maybe lowballed them with early offers. Is that fair?
I didn't lowball them with £100,000 or £200,000.
Well, that's what I saw. It was 200,000, I think.
Blimey. No, it was double that and whatever. But look, I think what I would say is in Wigan's position, Will Grigg's a popular player. They didn't want to sell him. They fought hard not to sell him. And they said to me at the start, the price needs to reflect the fact that we don't want to sell him. But the person we talked to at the club, I didn't get involved in the start, but we had a meeting instigated by somebody connected to Wigan who told us that he was available at £1 million. Now, when someone tells you that they're available for £1 million, Tony then came and said, we can have him. And Jack said, God, yeah, he's guaranteed goals, all the things. So very, very, I said, all right, we'll go for him. And the conversation, and it's great as well, because Jack and Tony were saying to me, can we afford £1 million? So I've done fantastically well to think that everyone around us thinks we've only got £1 million. So I was like, whoa, just about. So we put a bid in, but when someone says £1 million, you don't go straight in £1 million because it'll be £1.5 million. So we went in twice below £1 million, but not super low balling. And then it got to the stage where they were going, no, look, that's the figure. So I went, all right, we're there then. They're not going to move on this. That's the figure. So we then put in a bid, and we just got a response back that said, he's not for sale at that price. To which we said, whoa, come on. And then we pushed it to about £1.5 million. And at that point, we got the same response saying no. Now, all this happened. I'm not exactly sure when, but a good week before the end of the transfer window, we were at that stage. So I said, look, I'll just talk to chief executive here, because I said we're being told by the club this is the figure, and every time we hit it, and we weren't going to make any of it public, of course, but when their manager comes out and says, we've had 4 bids turned down, you think, well, I get that, and they're looking like they want to keep him, but we were keeping it in house, because a lot said that we say a lot, but we wouldn't. Jack was then forced to say we'd made a bid. So that's where we were. So I phoned the chief executive and I said, look, I'm really sorry. I'm frustrated with my staff because they keep telling me that if I bid this, it will come. And I said, I know over £500,000 what they told me, and I'm still getting an answer back where I'm not even getting a figure. You're just saying, no, he's not for sale at that price. I said, I've got nothing to work with. And I said, and if you're going to tell me it's 2, 3, 4, 5 million pounds, we're not at that price. And he said, well, I don't think any of your staff have done anything wrong. It's just you're talking to the wrong people. They haven't got the authority to deal with it this way. But you're right, the figure is, a few million more than that, in effect, was what you said. He didn't give me a figure, but he said that, and I went, well, we're not in that market. So thanks very much, and I left it. As with all those things, I didn't know if he was bluffing me or I was bluffing him. And then we seriously looked at a couple of other targets. Now, the natural thing to do then was scale the bottom of the Championship and the top of League One, or anything up and coming. So we had a look at the League One strikers, and we put a couple of bids in. And that was a couple of bids. And we inquired about another player, and we were told he was 5 million. And I said, they said they turned down 3, and I said, oh, what is it then? They said 5. I said that's too rich, so we discounted that player. And then the other main target we had, we went straight to the club and offered over £2 million for this player, and the response came back that it was a no. And I think the player got wind of it, as they all seem to get wind of it, and got a message back saying, if I can earn double my money, I'll go and bang the door down. And Richard got that message, and he sat at me and he went, we're not signing this player. And he said to the player's agent who's come, he said, you haven't said you want to come play for Sunderland. You said you can double your money. Not interested. So that discounted another target of ours. So then we were looking like, there was one or two others. We knew we had a striker on the back burner, who we would get.
Was that Sterling?
Tony was relaxed on that. He just said that there's one, I've got one. Don't I know you want 2, and he gave me the description of the player without telling me who it was, because he didn't want to. And with Josh then going, as this was developing, my view was that on the football side they were relaxed on this, but I thought we might need some more guaranteed goals. So I sat there and I left it as late as I could. And then I thought, nah, we need this lad. So we had a conversation. Everyone was comfortable with it, and I just sat there and thought to myself, I'd like to try and do this for Jack. I know Jack was saying no, don't worry. It's but Jack, I know, really wanted Will, and I thought I've just got to do the best I can do and put the best offer in that I can. And I left it, waiting to see if they would come, and then we get to the last day, and I thought I've just got to do the best I can. So I pushed our bid up to start with a 2 and a bit more, and it was just no. And I sat there and I thought, oh. And then I thought, oh, all right. I'm trying to wrestle between paying over the odds for the player because it's January, because the stuff that was coming back to us, we were being quoted £2 million for players that are worth 200,000, and they're going, it's January tax and Sunderland tax, and that's what they're saying. We know you need someone. With Josh going, we knew it was going to be like that, and we wanted one in before with Josh, but we just couldn't make it happen. So I knew I was probably going to have to pay over the odds, but we wanted Will. Jack wanted Will. He's got a great track record. He's a good lad. I think he knows some lads that are here, and the vibe was that he would be keen to come if we could get a deal, and it might give the place a little bit of a lift as well with what else we'd done. And I looked at the January transfer window and thought, Jack wanted a centre half, done that. We got a bit more in midfield there, someone who loves the club, good experience, the winger to give us a bit of options, the striker to replace Josh Maja in sort of without the goals, but could be. And I just thought, icing on the cake time, let's go for it. So I left it as late as I could to go in with that last offer.
What time was that?
7. And they went, yeah, right then. And that was it then. Off we go. But we signed him, I think, with about 50 seconds spare. We got the paperwork back, I think, with 4 minutes to go, and then we had to get it over. So it was tight. But there was a lot of faffing about at the end when you've done it, and you just come on. But we got there. So if it's captured, it'd be good TV.
Did you ever worry that we wouldn't get one?
Yeah, last day. Yeah. I was worried last day because everybody was just it was just getting really silly, and I did start to worry. Yeah.
And would we have bought Grigg even if Maja had stayed?
Yeah, possibly.
But maybe not put the full 3-4 million as you did at the end.
No, I think when I say would we have wanted him? Yes. Would I have felt the need to go to 3 million? No. So probably not then, because I don't think they wouldn't have sold for less.
Cameron McGeehan, was there anything happening with him?
Not as far as I know.
We were told.
No.
Okay, we'll move on from there. Chet Evans, there was a tweet from Peter O'Rourke claiming that we changed our mind on him because of negative social media reaction. Is that true? No,
we wouldn't change our mind on a player, I don't think. We would always try and justify doing whatever it is we wanted to do. I know Chris Wilder obviously quite well, and I phoned Chris directly and said, what have you got? Who are you looking to move out? I said we could do with a striker, and he gave me a couple of names of people out there, and I mentioned him, and we said to Sheffield United that we may well be interested, and Jack talked it through, and again it was a footballing decision, and we got down the avenue of having a conversation, and then Jack said, I think we want to go in a different direction, so no thank you, and that's where we got to.
Do you think you made any mistakes? If you're looking at the whole January transfer window back, I mean, what have you learned, and what can you take for next year's January window? We took when Josh Maja was going, what we tried to do when we knew that was going to happen, we talked to some Premier League clubs to see if there was any interest ourselves, and 2 of those Premier League clubs told us they never do any business in the January transfer window because it's a false market and they try and do everything in the summer. And I sat back and reflected on that and thought to myself, if we'd have done more in the summer, we might not be in this position. And I think the best time to do business is in the summer. So I think, I underestimated the cost of replacing Josh, not having, when I was negotiating with Josh, I think we were negotiating purely on what we thought was right and fair and everything else. And we underestimated what it would cost to replace him. And probably in hindsight, we should have done our negotiation quicker on that. So I think that scenario has made our January more expensive, which is gutting. But, just like everything else, and it won't be what the fans want to hear, but I'm learning my way into owning a big football club. And I'm learning about the markets and this, that, and the other. But I'm a quick learner. And I think, there is no doubt about, that thread, whatever it is on whatever
Neil's talking about, that it's not my first mistake. I've made loads of mistakes, and I'm sure I'll make loads more. But I'll try and learn from them, and they'll all be done, I suppose, in that sense with the best of intentions. And I think our January has been more expensive because we haven't done well enough in our first window. But then I would cut myself some slack on that as well, and Jack, and say we were a bit 11th hour into the club with a lot to sort out. And I think it's very easy now to sit here and say we're in this position or that position. But, you know, there was a lot to sort out, and there still is quite a lot to sort out. And that's where, you know, when I see Jack's come in for a little bit of criticism because we had a couple of draws, if you knew what Jack had to deal with from the moment he's walked in and how he's dealt with it and how he's got the atmosphere right and everything else, he's doing an unbelievably good job. And we need to make sure, and I've said this, if we got promoted this season and we got promoted next season and we were then bottom 6 in the Premier League, come January, everyone would be, because it's modern football, would be going, well, you know, he's not cut out to be a Premier League manager. We need some more experience, this, that, and the other. And you've got to remember what people have done for you. And it's ever so easy to turn around and say, well, this is where we are. And he's done a fantastic job getting us where we are. And we don't want to have too short of memories when we're judging where we are.
We've got a question here about Eastleigh. Obviously, we had Stride check down there on loan, but do you envisage there being a growing relationship between the two clubs potentially?
I hope so. I'm very fond of Eastleigh. That had 5 or 6 years of my life, and I look out for their result. You know, without doing anything silly, they've got a fantastic structure there. You know, I spent £10 million on them, and I get, well, I spent a bit more than that actually. I try to forget, but I think I've spent about £13 million there and set the structure up. It's a fantastic place to go down. And I know Max went down there and I thought, oh, you know, it's got some of the best. It's got League One facilities, and they look after everybody really well, and it's very professional. So it would be a good place for some of our players to go. The logistics don't make it great, but with the airports, you know, it's only an hour's flight. So I hope we can build on that potentially, as long as it's sensible.
What is our financial situation? Obviously, the deal for Will Grigg. Did you pay for the Will Grigg deal? Did that money come out of the club? How did that work?
Well, I'm gonna have to put a bit more money in the short term. The scenario with the football club is that we've done fantastically well, and we've got to a position whereby there's zero cash flow issues. We probably get through to the summer, and we've managed to save the parachute payments so that we can invest those. And that was always the plan, to give ourselves a little bit of extra. So we're in good shape. We're going to have, you know, quite a few £1 million left over, but it depends how far down we've got the losses on that. And I think the losses are going to be circa 5 million next season, depending on what league we're in. But the parachute payments will more than cover that, hopefully. Well, they will, and that will give us hopefully a bit extra. So that's where we are. But now, having done Will Grigg, we hadn't budgeted to spend 3 million, and we haven't got 3 million in that sense. So it will just need a little bit extra. We have got short-term instalments on it that'll help with the cash flow. But even so, just a little bit of money goes in, but nothing major.
Is there any
silly
questions off the EFL in regard? Because I know that you had to avoid a transfer embargo. Did they say, how are you spending this? No,
we're okay. The EFL said to me when I came in that I might need to, that I will need to, and I did need to show that I had £50 million if I've got my numbers wrong. And I said, it'll be 20. I'll only need to put that in. And they said, well, if it runs as it is, it will be 50. So I'm way below even the 20, I think. I don't know exactly how much it is. That's an awful thing to say, but I'm not sure exactly how much I've put in. But to the running of the club, it's less than what I thought it would be, never mind less than what they said. So I think they should be very relaxed at having shown them that I can put in 50, to know that I've put in less than I said at this stage. I think they're okay.
Was Juan Sartori involved in any transfer dealings?
Nope.
Did you communicate with him on deadline day? Was he aware what was happening?
No, I didn't communicate with him on deadline day. We've been communicating, but I didn't communicate with anybody on deadline day. And I expect you have it. I've always get it in life. My mum's phoning me, my partner's phoning. I'm like, there's an hour and a half to go, and they're saying, "Are you going to be home for dinner?" It doesn't matter how many times you tell them, I'll be out. So I was a couple of short, curt phone calls with a couple of family members was about the only people I spoke to.
Yeah, you sent me a text at about 8:30 to say podcast on Saturday.
Did I?
Because I was surprised. I was like, really? Like, this is what he's thinking about right now?
Yeah.
Podcasting. How well placed are we if we don't go up this season? Now, obviously, I don't want to think about not going up, but if we don't go up, if we finish third, we'll lose the playoff final. Where does that leave us? Well,
it doesn't leave the football club in any jeopardy of being around. We're financially, we'll survive. We'll still have the biggest budget in the league. We'll still probably spend more money in the summer than anybody else. But the extra funds that we'll have saved over from the parachute payment will disappear. And we won't be in the right league. So we'll be spending it, getting back to the Championship, and we wanted to spend it trying to get back into the Premier League. So it's bad. It would be bad news. Promotion is probably worth circa 10 million. The parachute that's left over is circa 10 million. And I think the bottom line on it is if you go up, that parachute payment's a bonus to invest in the team. If you don't, it's probably going to cover the football club. So, it's a 10 million swing.
So alternatively, I mean, I don't want an exact figure here, but if we go up into the Championship, what kind of budget can fans expect? Because, I mean, I was surprised seeing we spent the money on Will Grigg, and I was thinking, that an inclination that we're going to be the kind of club that, will buy a few 3, 4, 5 million pound players when they go up?
Maybe. It depends on what I can organise if we go up. The first focus is on, can we go up? Are we sustainable? Yes. And then you draw a line, and our playing budget then on a break even, I don't know, would be, it could be 14 million. It could be as much as 20. Some teams are spending way more than that. Some teams in the playoffs are at the bottom end of that. The Championship is really about getting value for money, because you can pay £40,000 or £30,000 a week for a striker, and you can pay 10. It's about getting the right one. But what I need to look at there is our ability to compete if we need to beyond that, and that's what I'm looking at the moment. How can I, if we need to, get a 15 up to a 25 on a sustainable basis to give us the best possible chance? But I don't think, if I'm honest, as I sit here, we won't be signing 3 players on £5 million each if we get promoted. We won't be in that position unless I can work a little bit of magic between now and the start of next season, if we get there, with regards to some ideas. And I've got a few different ideas of how we can generate.
Is this ideas you want to have a share of, or are you going to keep them quiet?
There's options on there. Juan might want to get more involved. He knows people that probably will want to get more involved. We get in approaches all the time, but they've got to be the right ones. We don't really want to, but if somebody comes along and you think they could take you to the next level, then we've got to be open to that. I'm really loving trying to achieve it within the group of people that we've got. I don't really want to change that dynamic, and I'm looking at how can we add £5 or £10 million worth of extra revenue. And I've looked at it. If you remember, we talked about the stadium, that we might need to short-term finance it to get through a short-term cash flow. We managed that, so we didn't need to do it. And then I sat there the other day and I said, we got an £80 million stadium. If we took 40 million and had half of it, and the guys went, oh yeah, we could put that in the playing budget, and we have an extra. If we paid financing cost on it, we'd have an extra 3 years at 10 million on the budget. And I'd be like, yeah, but if you get that wrong, you then, you go away. But I said, I wasn't thinking that. What I was thinking was, if we mortgaged it, for argument's sake, and took it, what could we buy that generates us £10 million every year forever? Because I said, if you gave me £40 million in my businesses, I'd get you a profit of X, Y, and Z. So could Sunderland own 4 £10 million hotels that generate a revenue of £2.5 million profit each, and you've always got the hotels, and you've just used the stadium against it, but you've got 10 million to go into the club every year because that's the profit that it's making? And then you put that extra revenue in, and you've always got the hotels, and every year they will give us a way to generate. Now, it might not be that, or it might be, different styles of businesses. So I've looked at that, and I thought that would enable me to stay involved, and I'd trust how I would spend the money. And that's one thing going through my mind, and it might go absolutely nowhere, or it might go somewhere. But we're going to have to be inventive if we want to have a budget that's near the top of the Championship, and just going up and carrying on like we are, that's not going to happen.
Contract statuses of Denver Hume, Adam Matthews, a few of the youngsters, are we working on them? Yep.
There are contract offers out. Adam Matthews, I think we said we'll have to see where we are at the end of the season, because it will be league dependent. I think we'd like to make him an offer, but it might not be on the same terms that he's currently on. But I think we'd like to keep him, but that will probably be more down to Adam being happy with what we can do for him. And the other lads have all got offers out there. And they're all with the agents coming back to us. And again, we've got a bit of time on that now. So, I expect there'll be a bit of haggling between now and the end of the season, but we want to keep Denver Hume. We want to keep Elliot Embleton. But again, on those contracts, we are not going to do them a 2-year deal on better money and say that's it. And then them take a year to get in the team, then get in the team and run the contract down. We need some options so we're protected, and they need to accept those. And there's a balance there.
Some questions here, more sort of logistical questions, but were we involved in the bidding to get rugby league games that have gone to St James's Park and the Riverside?
I don't think so.
Is that the kind of thing though you'd want to do?
Well, we should be, but I don't. I've been, if I'm honest, I've been focused on other things. We're trying to put the stadium out in whatever way we can, because again, as the football club, we're talking about concerts and everything. We've got a responsibility to the area. If we get concerts, if we get things in, it generates jobs. It keeps taxi drivers busy. It gets hotels busy. It gets people in cafes and bars. So this football club needs to drag people to the city of Sunderland for the prosperity of the people that live and work here. We can create jobs and revenue if we've got the Stadium of Light used as a venue. So I don't know is the honest answer whether we were in for those, and I probably should know, and I don't. But we have an instruction to be out for everything. But I honestly don't know, and I think I would know if we'd have gone in for them.
Is there a chance to show the Checker Trade semi-final in one of the bars, similar to Accrington Stanley? It's obviously going down to Bristol Rovers on a Tuesday night.
It's on TV, isn't it?
It's on Sky, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm sure we can put it on, and that would be a good idea.
And one question, I mean, we've touched on this before, but how are you juggling everything with Sunderland and your other businesses? Is it
fine
working at the minute?
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm focused on. I've got good people in all the other businesses. They're probably happy I'm not overly involved. I only interfere. I mean, Jack doesn't want me interfering in the transfer deadline days, understandably. Neither does Tony Cohn and Richard Hill. My other business people don't want me. I don't know what I'm doing really. Nobody wants me around. No, it's fine. But the balance, joking aside, the balance is fine. This is very important to me to get this right. For a whole host of reasons. So this is. Everyone who knows me knows this is my project at the moment.
Final one before we let you go off, and we can all enjoy the match. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. Since you've been here, for how long? How long have you been here now? You came in May.
8-9 months. I don't know, yeah.
What's been the most challenging thing?
I
know we've talked a lot about agents, which somehow we haven't actually spoke about on this. We haven't actually touched the agents, unlike us.
They're warming to me, I think. A few of them, unbelievably. The players has been the most difficult. The players that didn't want to be here. That's taken up the most time and been the most frustrating thing about being involved. People that say that they don't want to be around, yet expect you to pay them to go. But they also give you the biggest sense of satisfaction. Because if you look at our transfer dealings, we've managed those because people that didn't want to be here, that thought they could leave for nothing, we've ended up getting money for. So they've paid for this team, and never mind paying for them, they thought we should pay them to go, and we've managed to get it the other way round. So that's been the toughest thing, but the most rewarding as well.
Okay, that's us all done. So thanks, Stuart, for sparing an hour and 20 minutes, I think. No, an hour and 12 minutes. Are we all good, Gav? Anything else? No, all good. Okay, so hopefully everyone will be listening to this on the way back home from a big win against Wimbledon.
I hope
Fingers
so.
crossed.
4 home games out of 5. It's
You'll be singing the Will Grigg's on fire chant tonight, will you? Is he playing?
No, I think he's in for next week. I landed the I didn't land it, but the helicopter landed and he was out training on the pitch I landed on, so I had a good chat with him.
Maybe?
Yeah. I think he said to me he should be all right for next week, hopefully.
So we won't see him today.
So we'll see. No, I think he's in the club shopping around. He's absolutely over the moon to be here. You can tell.
Yeah.
So I think the squad's in a good shape, but I can't say that yesterday. Well, I have to say that yesterday I think the Will Grigg song got played more in the office than anything else. We were all running around, jumping around. It's just a great song, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's just
It'll improve the atmosphere as well, hopefully.
Well, I said, I'll go into the Quins after the game, and if we're doing well, then I've seen the picture of the Wiggins fans jumping up and down to that song. I think Quins will be pumping that out, hopefully.
Fingers crossed. Okay, thanks, Stuart, for coming in.
Thanks very much, guys.
Some exchange betting companies run short-lived promotions, like months-long offers of low commission. At BetDAG, we wanted to change the way we did things, so we set our commission at 2% permanently. That's 2% on football, horse racing, golf, almost any sport. 2%. That's just one way that BetDAG is changing for the better. For the better, like you. BetDAG, the 2% commission exchange.
Over 18s only. Please gamble responsibly.